All right, welcome to Dicejunkies. Today we have a very special guest with us, Mr. Trevor Devall. Mr. Duvall's resume includes on the higher level that I'm aware of as far as Rocket the Raccoon on Guardians of the Galaxy, the TV series, as well as Chief Palpatine in Lego Star Wars. Reached out to him because of his role as Mac in Gears of War, which is by far our favorite member of Scorpio Squad. But I'm sure Q's going to drag in some of his other content. But Mr. Duvall, thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Good to see you all. Good to be here. Virtually. Good to be among you.
Welcome aboard. You're up for a ride.
Okay. Well, let's get this party started.
Well, I'm going to let Blood Axe go because he's the boring one, and then I'll come in with the interesting stuff. So go ahead, Blood Axe.
Well, we could just throw my questions out the window if you want to start off, Q, because mine just the regular boring shit of how to get started in voice acting, what's your biggest break into business. But if you want to jump into anime, go right ahead.
No. Let's start with the business first, man. Desserts for later.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll skip down to number 3, and then that way we'll have more time for you to ask your other questions. How about that? So actually, yeah, it's one of the roles that you're most known for, as I said earlier, is your role of Rocket the Raccoon in Guardians of the Galaxy, which, in all honesty, is probably one of my personal favorite members of Guardians. What can you tell us about your role as Rocket the Raccoon?
Well, it was a very nice day when I booked that job. I'm not gonna lie, a very good day. I knew nothing at all about Guardians of the Galaxy when I auditioned for that job. Nothing at all. The movie hadn't come out yet. The trailers had just started to come out, but I hadn't seen them. All I knew is that they brought me to the studio and they said, "Okay, here's your NDA you have to sign. The character you're reading for." I actually read for a lot of people. I read for all the characters, but when I saw Rocket, the description was, well, he's an armed raccoon and he's angry, and I'm like, okay. Yeah. That's fine. That's
about
something
it,
to go
really.
on.
That is about it. From a guy who knows the comic, that's about it.
Yeah, that was about it. So I was like, okay. So like everything, I just went with my first instinct, which was sort of a, not really a New York thing, but kind of just sort of a George Costanza kind of thing going on. And yeah, that was that. And I booked it, and it was great. And we did 3 seasons. I don't know, a lot.
Yeah, I saw there was 3 seasons. It ended in 2019.
Yeah.
We were watching it on Disney a lot, and yeah, my kids love it because the movie came out and it was such a success that was beyond expectation that I'm actually impressed that they had the forethought to go ahead and get the anime series off the ground before the films. So I guess they were expecting it to be more of a success than the general audience did.
Well, all these big companies, they assume they cast a wide net, right? So when they release a movie, they're thinking, okay, well, what about the animated series? What about the merchandising? What about this? What about that? What about that? So luckily, the movie did, as you say, much better than I think any of us expected, which is great. I love the movie. But what was funny was when I booked the job as Rocket, again, I didn't really know anything about it. And then I saw the trailer and I went, oh, this is kind of a big deal. And Bradley Cooper's playing Rocket in the movie. Oh no, I'm going to be compared to him all the time. But as it turned out, it wasn't really the case. He was doing his own thing, and that was fine. Yeah, no, it was just a great. The years I played Rocket, I still kind of play him every now and then. Some special will come up or something. But I got a lot of mileage out of him. I played him in series and specials and video games and promotional stuff. So it was cool. It was very cool. He was one of my favorite characters for sure.
Yeah, it almost sounds like actually I didn't let Q respond before I add my comments in. So I'm gonna let Q go ahead and do his thing real quick.
Like you said, I would love the idea that I looked at it and saw that you had played him on multiple occasions, even in games. So you covered it. Because you were saying you did some side stuff, like you played him in the games too when he popped up. And I like what y'all did with him because honestly, to me, Rocket Raccoon was just a raccoon with a gun. So a lot of the filling in had to be done by the people playing the character because that's really about his story. I mean, there's somebody out there cursing my name because I don't know all the meta lore, but that's because they weren't really that popular before the movie. So
yeah, and I remember when I did the audition, what it said was this character has been played before by tiny little actors like Seth Green and Billy West, and I was like,
who are those
oh
guys,
my
man?
god, I have to follow this. Oh no. But it was interesting when I did the audition. The one thing they specifically said was we do not want a New York accent, and I think Seth Green had played him with a real kind of sort of New York thing when he was doing. I think he showed up in Avengers Assemble at one point, and Seth had played him. And I think he played him with that sort of New York accent. And they said, no, we want to get away from that. And I honestly think the reason why they did that, I could be wrong about this, but I think the reason why they did that is because when we do the animated series, they want to have a sense, like they want the audience to, feel like it's reminiscent of the movies, but they don't want a clone of the movies. They want, so because Bradley Cooper was really sort of leaning into that sort of New York thing a lot of the time, So they kind of wanted to dial back. An excellent example of this actually is Mick Wingert, who plays Iron Man in the last few seasons of Avengers. He does the best Robert Downey Jr. ever. When he did it for me the first time, I was like, oh my God, that's perfect. Like it was perfect. But when we would record, the directors would always kind of just pull him back a little bit because he was too good. He sounded too much like him. And I think that they didn't want people to be comparing this to the movies. They wanted a sense of it, but they didn't want to be. So, it makes sense. But oh man, Mick Downey Jr. is just flawless.
I like imagination. I would have preferred that y'all did it like a perfect rep. I'm that person that's like, no, I've got the Iron Man I like. I don't want any other Iron Man. Like, he managed to nail it. Old RBJ. Like, it broke my heart when I saw him with his up to his elbow in a dragon sphincter in Dr. Dolittle. And I just said, I don't see you as Iron Man anymore. Well, you haven't seen that movie? Oh, go watch it, and you won't see Iron Man again next time you see Robert Downey Jr. You're just gonna keep seeing that. Let me get that out for you, and I'm just like,
yeah.
Don't think that's a different kind of fist of power. That's a different Infinity Stone gauntlet in there.
Very true.
Yeah, I've never seen it and not really interested. I like actually the one with Eddie Murphy. Oh, that one was actually entertaining. Because it was Eddie Murphy. I think Eddie Murphy.
Because it was a comedy.
Yeah, it was funny.
Like no, I'm saying like I think that's the best way to go. You shouldn't try to make a serious Dr. Dolittle. It was a kid's book and a questionable one at some points. So few people know really the material that stuff is based on. I told you I'm a nerd. Like I'm going like, yeah, read the book. It'd be canceled today if you really looked at it. But no, like it was a kid's book. So I mean, it's just like when they did the live action Dr. Seuss stuff, they didn't try to be realistic with it because it's like you can't. It's got to be a comedy. Trying to kind of do a drama, I felt was where it probably jumped the shark, and the shark could talk, and the shark had a Brooklyn accent. I'm making that up, but I'm not making up the fact that too many of the animals had modern day. I'm sorry, what are we talking about? You got me going down a rabbit hole here. Let's talk about.
Well,
yours.
Well, you were talking about the character that keeps on giving, so I will jump over to one of your other characters when you played Chief Palpatine in Lego Star Wars, because they even brought you back for the holiday special. So you've done several episodes with the Freemakers and the holiday special. So what can you tell us about playing as the Dark Emperor?
One of my favorite roles of all time. We started with the Yoda Chronicles. That was when I was back in Vancouver, and Michael Price was the writer of the show. He's a Simpsons writer. He's also the primary producer behind F is for Family, which I was on Netflix.
I've seen that too.
And when we started doing the Lego Star Wars, they sent out the auditions, and I knew who these characters were. Right? They all had code names naturally, but you know who this is. So originally they wanted voice matches, and I thought, okay, well, that's no problem. So, I think I read for Han Solo and Obi-Wan Kenobi and the Emperor. and they wanted voice matches. So I booked the job. That's great. So we move in, we go into the studio rather, and we start playing it, and I'm trying to be as Lord Vader, trying to be very, very as emperor-like as possible. But then I realized as we're going through, oh, this is a comedy, and it quickly became, oh, wait a minute, we have a lot of latitude here. So my version of the emperor, there was one fan who put it perfectly. He said, Trevor Devall's Emperor Palpatine is like the love child between Mark Hamill's The Joker and Stewie Griffin. And I thought, oh, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Two huge influences, because he went from being this Lord Vader to being sort of like this guy. Yeah, Zephyr. I use the dark side. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, okay, that's good.
Lightning hands.
So yeah. So he's what's hilarious about him is that we did the Yoda Chronicles, and then we did the Freemaker Adventures, and we did all these specials and all these movies, and they still keep bringing me back. Every time we do a new special, there's a couple new ones coming out. I can't tell you anything about them, obviously, but there's a couple new ones coming out, and every time I'm like, really? How many times does this guy have to die? Like,
as many times they'll write you a check. As many times they'll write you a check. Take it, man.
I love it. And the Lego guys are great to work with. They're always telling me, dude, we're trying so hard to get you your own series. I'm like, okay, bring it on.
Just a Palpatine series.
Yeah. So he is obviously one of my favorite characters to play. They really let me riff with him. Like, they'll basically say, yeah, there's the script, but just you do you just do that Palpatine magic. Okay, so I do.
Somewhere there's a writer going like, oh, we got Trevor Devall. Okay, good. I ain't got to worry about that. I mean,
yeah.
So what's Luke going to say when whatever Palpatine says is crazy? Like, the problem is then they got to react. They're like, what is he going to say to that?
Yeah.
That's fun. So it's interesting that they gave you a lot of ad lib ability when certain franchises are extraordinarily rigid with not having anything other than what's on the script, or you have to plead your case. Hey, I've been diving into this character. I think they should say this. Oh, no. You're going to say this whether you want to or not. But it's really good because as an actor, you can not only invest yourself but you can take on the persona and then really just get creative with it. Which I think one of the better known references from the Star Wars franchise is when Harrison Ford in the infamous Empire Strikes Back episode, when Leia says, I love you, he goes, I know. And it was written as I love you too. Yeah. And George Lucas hated it. No, we're not doing it. And they did a test viewing and everybody loved the line. So having that flexibility ahead of time is phenomenal. So
yeah, whenever we record this stuff, I try to give them at least one pass as written, because I'm a writer too, so I want to make sure that I'm honoring the writers, because I know how hard they agonize over every little piece of punctuation. Like, I get it, so I always try and give them one as written. But there's an expectation with these guys that, well, Trev's just gonna riff, so let him go, and I do. And sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. But it's a real pleasure and an honor to just know that they're willing to entertain my bizarre versions of things sometimes. I'm
gonna translate that into, I tried once as written, then I fix it and I make it good. But I can't say that because I'm going to be humble right now, but I fix it. They know when their bread's buttered. Look, they know when their bread's buttered. They know who the Palpatine daddy is. At least that's what I hear, but then I've been told I'm a jerk by everyone.
You seem all right to me at the moment.
No. You're a terrible judge of character.